So you wrote your first banger. Awesome. Let's get you set up so you know how to actually record it. Maybe show your friends. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Musician's Resource, your guide to how to be a musician in the modern day scene. I'm Brian, and if you like what you see, be sure to like, subscribe, helps the channel out. And yeah, let's get to it. By the way, guys, I do also stream on Twitch. My link will be in the description below. Basically, anything that we talk about in these videos, I want to really be able to show you guys a real-world application. And if you guys have any questions, things like that, you're welcome to post it in the comments below. But at the same time, I feel like, it might be a little bit more personal. Jump on a stream and just ask me on there. I will do my best to answer the questions. And I've also got, we've got the Discord server as well for any kind of community-related questions. Or, if I can't answer it, then hell, maybe somebody else can. I'm probably going to break this video up into a few parts because I want you guys to really understand the whole process and to be able to communicate with other producers. So we're going to be going over things like basic terminology, the equipment that you need, and some software that will actually really help you out. So first things first, let's go over some terminology. Nothing is worse when you get into recording and you're trying to ask somebody for help and you don't even know the words to ask. Like, they start spewing things and you're just like, yeah, and the doohickey go in that, yeah, okay. Don't be that guy. First thing you need to understand, the software that you're actually recording into, that's called a DAW. It stands for Digital Audio Workstation. It's a fancy word for recording program. And a lot of times whenever you ask for help, people will be like, oh, what DAW are you using? Well, sometimes that can be like Pro Tools, Logic, or whatever. We'll go over more of those later in the video. Next thing is the files that you're actually recording in that DAW. Those are called tracks. Like the different channels, those are called tracks. Sometimes whenever you send them out, producers will ask for stems. What that is say if you recorded your guitars, your bass, your vocals, your drums, then maybe they want to remix it. Stuff like that. You need to understand that what you're sending out are called stems, and what you recorded in, or what the individual channels are tracks. And then with stems, a lot of times other producers will ask you when you send over your demos, they will ask for wet or dry stems. All that means is whenever you have all those effects on your tracks, if they are on the channel, then that's considered a wet stem. Versus if you just record it, export it, you did nothing to the track in your software, then that's dry. A lot of times with guitars, you'll track into your interface and then you'll put the amp on it in Pro Tools or whatever you use. And if I was to send those stems out to another producer, 9 times out of 10, they don't care what amp I used. So they might just want the dry stem. But if they do want my guitar tones, then yeah, of course, then that's considered printing out a wet stem version of that. Another thing, and this is a meme that I saw a long time ago, that I realized that it's a term that's used in studio a lot that nobody seems to understand outside of the recording world, and it's the term bouncing down. That's the process of exporting it from your DAW to an MP3 that you can listen to later. Another thing, and whenever you get started recording, you might notice like, hey, I can talk into the mic and then I hear it come back a second later. It's almost like there's a little bit of a delay. That's called latency, and it's one of the first problems a lot of new producers run into. It's usually pretty easy to get rid of, but if you don't know what that's called, sometimes it can lead to a lot of miscommunication when you're asking for help. So the terminology out of the way, we need to go over some basics as far as what you're actually going to need to record. So say you wrote your song on your little acoustic guitar, and that's fantastic. It's a soft, beautiful, melody, whatever. You're gonna need to record it. The first thing you're gonna need, obviously, is a computer. It doesn't matter if it give you a laptop computer, Windows, Mac, it doesn't matter. You just need a computer to record because this is not the 1960s anymore. Next up, you'll need your microphone and an instrument. Depending on whatever you're recording, you know what you need. You'll either, if you're singing, go buy a mic. If you're just recording guitar tracks, a lot of times you can just run them directly into the interface. Regardless, you know what you need to record what you're doing. But what you're gonna need to plug it into is called an interface. And there's 1,000 interfaces out there. What matters is how many channels you need and what's your budget and how is it connecting to your computer. A lot of times they'll use USB. If you're on a Mac, they'll use Thunderbolt. For me, I've bounced between the two, and really it just depends on it's more on the interface, not the way that it connects. In fact, my interface, I think, has 2 ways of connecting to a computer. It can do USB or Thunderbolt, but that's kind of irrelevant, like I said. Next thing up that you need are monitors. Now, in recording, monitors does not mean computer screens. Whenever people say monitors, they're talking about the speakers. The difference between a monitor and a recording studio versus a regular speaker in like a home sound system or your car is typically it's a flat response. And what that means is it's not adding anything to the sound. So a lot of times when people first hear them, they're like, sounds very clear, but it's not very appealing. And that's okay, because you don't want appealing. You don't want, just because somebody has a $5,000 sound system, that doesn't mean that everyone listening to your music is gonna have that same system. So you mix on a flat response so it translates from, from your studio to the car to everywhere else. And it's a good idea to have a good set of monitors because you don't want your stuff sounding like trash when you upload it to Spotify. Then the next thing up you're gonna need are the cables to connect everything. Depending on your monitors, they all have different connections. Some of them use XLR, some of them use 1/4 inch. The cheaper ones sometimes will even use RCA cables. It just depends on what you're using. Check the owner's manual and it'll tell you exactly what you need. And then of course you're gonna need your software. Now that does include your DAW, but it also includes these other little cool things called plugins. Now, every DAW has its built-in effects that it comes with. These are compressors, EQs, reverbs, delays, yada, yada, yada. They all have them. Now, they all do them a little bit differently, and some of them are a little bit different quality. So sometimes you might want to add a little extra, pizzazz to your mix. And, there's a lot of different companies out there, and I will be doing a video on my top 5 favorite plugins, but just understand that plugins are extra stuff that you can buy externally, or a lot of times they're free as well. But they're external software that you throw into your DAW to make your stuff sound better. Now let's talk about DAWs. Digital Audio Workstation, if you haven't got that already. I'm drilling this in your head because a DAW is that's the home base for everything. There are some free options out there for DAWs. If you have a Mac, then all of them come preloaded with GarageBand, and that for demos is fantastic. If you have an iPhone, they have GarageBand on there, so you can actually turn your phone into like a recording device. There's also Pro Tools, Cubase, and Ableton. They all offer light versions, which are free. I recommend that if you're whatever DAW you plan on using long term, even if it's a paid software, get the light version of it so you can start familiarizing yourself with it. You have to understand, working with a DAW is like learning a language. They all say the same thing, but they all structure their sentences differently. And it's just a lot easier to stick to what you know and make an educated decision based off of what type of music you really plan on doing. Side note, if you run Windows, I'm sure you've heard of Audacity. It's a decent program if you're just trying to record little bits of audio or voiceover work maybe, but it doesn't have any kind of MIDI interface with it. And translation, if you want to program out any kind of beats, if you want to do any kind of drum writing for your band, it can't do that. Different DAWs do different things better, if that makes any sense, and it's more so related to their workflow rather than their actual final product quality. Like I said, all DAWs do the same thing. They don't affect your sound quality. It's just the workflow that changes. For me personally, I use Pro Tools. I've just always used it, and for the type of music that I typically do, which is more rock, metal, I've been doing a lot of pop stuff lately, but it's a lot more band oriented, and it's just a better it's just a smoother software for that. Now, say I was making beats, then yeah, if I had a Mac, I would run Logic, which is the paid version of GarageBand, or even programs like Ableton. I've seen some people make some really cool stuff with Ableton. And if you're doing beats, you can't forget Fruity Loops. That is probably one of the most inclusive DAWs that I've ever seen that does a fantastic job with beats. Now, anybody who's ever tried to record vocals into FL Studio knows that's a nightmare. So, like I said, different DAWs do different things better. If you're just doing basic songwriting, pick a DAW that works best with what you need. By the way, I will have links below for all the different DAWs that we're talking about. So that's gonna wrap up part 1 of all this. I know that's a lot of information, and I don't want to overload too much into one video. And like I said, I do stream over on Twitch, so please, if you have any questions from what I've said, or if you want any more in-depth recommendations, whatever, come hit me up on Twitch. I'd be happy to sit and talk with y'all. I can go a lot more in depth with these individual softwares. So again, thank you so much for checking this out. If you liked the video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, everything. We'll be doing a lot more content on basically just how to be a musician in today's scene and how to get the most out of doing stuff DIY. I've been in a band for most of my life, and if I would have had some of the things that we're gonna be talking about on this channel, I would be in a very different position now. Let's put it like that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for checking it out, and yeah, peace.